We in Rivers State here know that on those dates, elections were held. People went out to vote, and they did vote. We also know that quite unexpectedly, the level of anxiety that preceded the elections they itself were calm, and we did not have the kind of violence that people thought the levels of anxiety would lead to. So we had peaceful elections, we had credible elections. The people voted and expressed their desires. Unfortunately, the justices who reached decisions are not in Port Harcourt. They were not in Port Harcourt on those dates. By law, our tribunals ought to hold in Port Harcourt. They held in Abuja. We didn't have control over that. Even when they were challenged, we did not succeed. The justices didn't have the feel. They were not people who were in the state on those dates. And at the tribunal where the primary facts were heard, especially in the matter of the states, of the national assemblies, the tribunal, after hearing the evidences of both sides, agreed with the PDP and with us that the elections were credible, that the petitioners, the APC, did not prove their case. But unfortunately and quite unexpectedly, the appeal court ruled to the contrary. And the contents of the rulings were quite disturbing to some of us because they ran completely against the grain of the trend of the law. When you know the judgments that were given in other cases, especially where the APC were involved, where they were respondents like we were in the states where the APC won, the principles that were adopted to reach rulings in their favor were completely turned upside down when it came to us. In most of these cases, they said that the petitioner should prove their case. If you made an allegation in a court, then you should come and prove your case. In our case, they said no, that it is us who were the defendants that should prove our own case. They just moved the burden of proof shifted to the respondents, and whereas we still proved our case, it's unfortunate. We worry for the trend. We worry for our country, because in a place where you see this thing happening, and it's a set of people, a certain party that is at the receiving end all across the spectrum of the judgment, and the rules seem to shift against them wherever. If we won, the ruling, the basis of ruling will be against us. If we were the ones who were petitioning, then we have to prove. But if they were petitioned against, we also have to prove. If they petition, they don't have to prove. And if they petitioned against them, you say that then the person who petitioned against them didn't prove. When the law starts taking that kind of turn, then it becomes worrisome. We have the highest respect for our judiciary, and we have the highest faith in the integrity of our judiciary. But some of these set of judgments that are coming out lately puts us in a position where we are a bit at a loss as to what exactly is happening.
All right, Senator Olaka Nwogu. But a lot of people believe that, a lot of people are saying that, could it be that there was some loophole by your legal or by the legal team of your party, of the National Assembly member, that the APC took advantage of? Could it be there was something that you guys didn't see and they saw and then took advantage of it?
No, absolutely not. We had the fantastic team. We had some of the best legal minds handling our matters. The law was well canvassed. Even in reaching its decisions at the tribunal, we didn't get victory at the tribunal easily because our case was watertight. You know, it was easy for us to the extent that elections held, and we could prove that elections held. So we just put out the facts of the election. And an election is like a pyramid. You show that the INEC duly announced that there was going to be an election. The dates were gazetted and published. You show that on that day people came out to vote, and then the voters themselves will come to court and affirm that on that day they participated. They will show you their PVCs, and their voters card, which entitle them to participate in the process. And then they do this under oath. So ordinary voters, accredited voters came out show the processes they went through, and satisfy the court that they participated in the process and they voted. The results were available to the court to show them right from the units onto the wards and then onto the local government and so the processes were clearly demonstrated in court. There was no doubt at all that elections held. But curiously, it was at the appeal that everything started tumbling. Now, the appeal judges were not the primary hearers of evidences. So they did not see these voters, they were not there, but they were in the records.
Now, was there no process that should make them see those documents?
If you check the time their lordships had to handle this whole thing, one, the time was extremely short. They were dealing with so many cases within a very short period of time. How much time they had to read all this, I do not know. But still, elections have held, and there was the propaganda part of it, that the APC had made so much noise about insecurity in Rivers State. Recall that shortly before the elections, they had what they called the Black Monday, where they went on TV, all of them wore black and claimed people in their hundreds.
And then there was a White Friday.
And all that, yes. And the PDP tried to let the nation know. Because ordinarily, in all other places, they will resolve it in favor of the incumbents, simply because there was peace in the land. You don't take annulment of election like a joke. It costs the state a lot of money.
That's right.
It puts a lot of lives on the line, and it puts a lot of... you don't create needless public tension. We thought and we feared for the worst leading up to the last election. But as God will have it, we had cause to do a Thanksgiving as a party, because after the elections, we found that because of the will of the people to have successful elections, all that violence did not materialize as the opponents or the APC tried to inflict on the state. And we're grateful to God. So having this election characterized in the mode that they wished it to be and it did not, and then selling it to the judges. If the judges bought into it, I will not know.
Okay.
But
yeah. Sorry to cut in. Last week in this program, we brought a guest, a lawyer from the APC, and one of our callers called in, and who also is a PDP member. And there was this allegation, it's all over the media, that the decision may have been influenced by the power that be. One of the allegations really is that the husband of the president of the appeal court, Bukachua, is a chieftain of the APC. You've been in Abuja for quite some time, over close to 2 decades now. You've been in the House of Reps and all of you. You should have a little bit of this information. How would you react to that allegation?
Yes, Honorable Bukachua was my colleague at the time. I actually is not a member of the PDP. On the other hand, he is a member of the APC. There is no doubt about that. To the extent his membership of the APC will have influenced what was happening by his wife and also the president of the Court of Appeal, I do not know. And I do not speculate on people. But what I know is that their lordships were in a position, who handled our case, to have seen the facts that we presented, to have stood by the law. The law is very clear. If we had a superior court after the appeal court, the judgments in Rivers State will have been overturned. There is no way the judgments we got in Rivers State will have stood if we could go to any other court. Unfortunately, this was the last bus stop. And whatever happened, the timing was perfect against us, because you just got this shocker at a court where there was nowhere else to go but back to the people. And why I said earlier we remain undaunted is that so long as they allow the people decide, then we are still in our comfort zone. It is when it is taken out of the people that we have nothing else we can do. We want to stay by the rule of law and not by the rule of man. The judgment we got did not reflect what happened in Rivers State. It was a miscarriage, but still, of justice, but still, our respect for the judiciary remains intact.
Okay. Check your time is 11:25, and we've been talking with Senator Olaka Nwogu. He's been with us in the studio. We'll be talking about the annulment of the elections that were held in the last general election in Rivers State by the appeal court, and he's a major player in the whole saga. we've been in the last few minutes. We've been talking about your trust in the system, how confident you are in the system, and a lot of things that have happened in the appeal court. Proud to the appeal court decision. I'm sure you begin to prepare for rerun like the courts have directed. I'd like to ask you, looking at the incidents in Bayelsa State, how confident are you that this rerun will be free and fair? The last election in Bayelsa State, a lot of people have described it like as a war zone. As little as Bayelsa is, the election has remained inconclusive. The same with what happened in Kogi State. Are you confident that INEC will conduct a free and fair rerun in your own case in Rivers State?
Well, I think INEC carries a large burden. At the conclusion of the last elections, the ruling party then, the PDP, gave power to the APC. It was the maturity and a will to deepen and entrench democracy that led to that, where you allowed the opposition to take power. President Jonathan then did not wait for the results to be completely collated. He saw the trend and just said, no, I congratulate my opponent. We are seeing the reverse right now. We seem to be losing all we gained. And there were many things we took for granted. We said Nigeria has gone past this point. But you see, first, Kogi was inconclusive. At the end of the day, a man who scored only 6,000 votes is being declared the winner of an election where there are 200 and something thousand votes. And INEC said that is the way they see it. We are hoping that the courts will put things right. But there again, there are things that are happening that give us cause to worry. That of Bayelsa was actually the audio of violence. What I heard when the elections was going on was like a massacre was literally going on. PDP people were being hounded and being attacked, and the idea was to completely shut them out. It was the resilience, the never say die spirit of the women and the elderly that saved the party in Bayelsa. They said anything, people, they can kill them for all they care, but they will not allow themselves to be used in that way. And the women stood, the elderly stood and said, our material, we must vote at the time we should vote. Because take like Satanijo, where they were sending in material for voting at 6 p.m. in a place that was completely without electricity, largely a riverine area, where you have one of the second largest local government in the country. And it was practically impossible, yet they wanted to do whatever they would do that night. And the people resisted. So for Bayelsa, in spite of everything that was thrown at them, there was resistance. But at the end of the day, we must give certain credit again to the INEC of Bayelsa. Because at the time they announced the annulment, I know that the cancellation of the processes, it took courage for them to have done that. And that's the kind of courage we want INEC to continue to display. As we get to what will possibly be under rerun in Rivers State, the burden will be on INEC and also on the security forces. I don't know what the military will do, but I'm hoping that they will appreciate the sacred responsibility they have to the Constitution and people of Nigeria to keep the peace and ensure that they do only what is right and proper in the light of their responsibilities. If you bear arm on behalf of the people and you have the duty to keep the peace, if you subvert the system, you do it not against just the people, but against our constitution and yourself and the future, because you don't want to build on falsehood, you don't want to build on fraud. If you pervert the system and undermine the system, you're trying to create a society that is less desirable. My urge to our security forces is that their role will be vital in the elections. Recall, and this is very important, that at the tribunal, some military personnel came to testify against the PDP. And this was shocking to some of us, because we know that some of those who came to testify were never part of the election. Yet they came to the courts and said things that they did not participate in. So now, assuming they are also to participate in the elections that we are to hold, you have gone to court against one party in favor of the other. Then you also come and conduct election. Then you bear arms and carry troops on behalf of the Nigerian people. what kind of justice would we get from you?
Obviously, I was going to ask you, that was going to be my next question, what your view is about the involvement of the military in election, considering the situation in Bayelsa, and of course the situation in Ekiti State during when the former president was in power is still fresh in the minds of most Nigerians. The military has set up a panel to also look at that issue, even though the Supreme Court has taken decision on that. Some people are saying this is not the role of the military. They shouldn't be part of election process. Why not use the police? The electoral umpire, INEC, recently came out to say in the next rerun in Southern Ijaw, the police are going to take the forefront. What's your view as a major player, as a politician, in this whole saga, the military getting fully involved in election matters?
First of all, I was shocked when I saw the military in court, because I recall that it was the APC that went to court to say the military should not be part of the elections, and they were granted, their wish was granted, and the military was kept out of the process. They were told not to go to any polling units. They should stay at the fringes of the local government just in case for peace, and that was exactly what they did. So how they became witnesses to what was happening here and there at the voting points was strange to all of us. And we said so. The lawyers raised that. You in the polling units? They said no. Then what is your testimony about what happened at the polling unit when you were not there? And in law, hearsay means nothing. So it was quite a strange thing, the way the military got involved. And it spoke volume that they could easily get the military to come to court and testify on behalf of a party. Now, the elections have been called. I hope that they will respect what they asked for. Keep the military out of it. Let them just keep security at wherever is determined, which is actually outside of the units and outside of the wards. If they do that, that will be kind, that will be fair, that will be progressive. But I know that the APC seriously is banking on the use of the military to intimidate, to attack, to arrest, to completely intimidate PDP supporters so that they do not either vote or do the work they should do in terms of mobilizing the support. Everybody knows that Rivers State is a PDP state. I tell people, and most of my colleagues even who are in Abuja, who are northerners, will tell you how can APC hope to win in Rivers State. And these are even APC members. They know the facts. They are surprised at the turn of events. But I think that our people will show their resilience, and I hope the officials will try not to turn black into white or white into black just because it suits them to do so.
All right, very well. We've been talking with Senator Olaka Nwogu, and my name has been Onyeka Chinwosu. This is Family Love FM Editors Roundtable.